Ravi walked slowly behind the group as they moved through the endless hallways of the alien starship. Everything around him felt strange. The walls seemed alive, shifting with faint movements like the skin of some great creature. The lights above him were not like the ones on Earth. They glowed without lamps, spreading a soft silver color that made the corridors look dreamlike. Ravi's heart beat fast, not only because this was his first time on a ship belonging to another species, but also because he did not want to make any mistakes. Humans had worked hard to earn this meeting, and he was only a junior member of the peace delegation. The group's leader, a calm man named Arjun, walked ahead, speaking into a translator. He was answering questions from the alien guides, who wore long robes that shimmered with tiny scales. Ravi tried to listen, but his eyes kept moving to the walls, the ceilings, and the strange openings that led into other passages. Everything looked the same, and he wondered how anyone could find their way without getting lost. Then, without warning, the group turned a corner, and Ravi, who was distracted, did not notice. By the time he looked forward again, they had already moved further down the corridor. He quickened his steps, but in his hurry he made a mistake. Instead of turning left as the group had, he followed a narrow side path to the right. The passage was quieter, darker, and strangely inviting. "Wait," Ravi whispered, realizing too late that he had gone the wrong way. He looked back, hoping to see the others, but the main corridor was empty. His voice echoed softly, but no answer came. He knew he had to retrace his steps, yet something in front of him caught his attention. A large metallic door stood at the end of the hallway. Unlike the other smooth openings, this door was marked with a pattern of symbols. They pulsed faintly as though alive. Curiosity battled with fear inside him. He knew he should not open strange doors on an alien ship, but he also felt drawn toward it. The door seemed important, and perhaps someone inside could guide him back to his group. He took a deep breath and stepped closer. When his hand brushed against the surface, the symbols lit up brighter. A soft hum filled the air, and the door slid open without a sound. Ravi's eyes widened. Beyond the doorway was not another empty corridor but a vast chamber unlike anything he had seen. The room was filled with colors and shapes that seemed both natural and artificial. The floor was smooth and shining, reflecting soft waves of light from crystals placed around the chamber. Fabrics of deep blue and green hung from the walls, moving gently as though stirred by an invisible wind. Strange objects, some shaped like bowls and others like tall vases, glowed faintly with liquid inside them. The air smelled faintly sweet, carrying a freshness that reminded him of a forest after rain. Ravi took one slow step inside, then another. His shoes made no sound on the polished surface. His heart pounded. This place did not look like a control room, a meeting hall, or a storage chamber. It looked personal, private, almost like a home. He thought of turning back, but something deeper urged him to stay a moment longer. He had never imagined alien life could have such beauty, such attention to detail. Every corner of the room spoke of culture, tradition, and care. He walked further in, his eyes wide, trying to understand what kind of place this was. Then he noticed something that made him freeze. At the center of the chamber stood a large structure, like a pod, with a surface that seemed to breathe. A soft mist rose from it, and the air grew warmer near it. For a moment Ravi thought it might be some machine, but then the surface moved. Slowly, with a sound like flowing water, the pod began to open. Ravi's breath caught in his throat. From within the pod, a tall figure rose. She was unlike any alien he had seen in the delegation halls. Her form was graceful yet powerful, her eyes glowing with intelligence as they fixed on him. She wore no robe like the guides outside. Instead, her presence alone carried an air of authority. The way she moved, the calm control in her gaze, told him at once who she must be. It was the queen herself. Ravi felt his legs weaken. He had wandered by mistake, taken the wrong turn, and now stood in the most forbidden place he could imagine inside the private chamber of the alien queen. The chamber grew silent except for the faint hum of crystals. Ravi could not move. His mind shouted at him to leave, but his body stood frozen. The queen tilted her head slightly, as if studying him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Ravi realized this was the beginning of something far greater than he could have ever expected. Ravi's heart raced as the tall figure stepped fully out of the strange pod. The queen's presence filled the room, though she made no sudden move. Her eyes were sharp yet calm, watching him with interest. Ravi felt small in her chamber, surrounded by symbols, fabrics, and crystals that spoke of a power beyond anything he had known. He tried to open his mouth, to explain himself, but no words came. His throat felt dry. The queen studied him as if deciding what kind of creature he was. She did not shout, nor call for guards. Instead, she simply stood there, her gaze steady, as though waiting for him to speak first. Finally, Ravi found his voice. I am sorry, he said, his words trembling. I was with the group. I lost my way. I did not mean to enter this place. The queen's expression did not change, but her translator device activated with a soft hum. Her voice came through in clear, measured tones. A human. Alone. In my chamber. The sound of her voice shook Ravi, not because it was harsh, but because of the weight it carried. It was not anger, but something else: curiosity. Yes, Ravi replied quickly, lowering his head. It was a mistake. I will leave at once, if you allow. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Ravi expected guards to arrive or for the queen to order him out. But instead, she stepped closer, her movements smooth and controlled. Her eyes never left his face. You are not like the others, the queen said through the translator. They walk with pride. They speak with careful words. But you look with wonder. Why? Ravi swallowed hard. He did not know how to answer. He thought of lying, of pretending to be braver than he was. But something about her presence demanded honesty. I have never seen anything like this place, he admitted. It is beautiful. Everything here feels alive. I could not look away. The queen tilted her head slightly, almost as if his words surprised her. Beautiful, she repeated slowly, as though tasting the word. That is not how humans usually speak of us. They call us dangerous. Strange. Sometimes worse. Ravi felt his cheeks warm. He realized the truth in her words. Many humans feared this species, seeing only their power and not their art. But standing here, in this private chamber, Ravi could not deny what he felt. I do not see danger, Ravi said softly. I see care. I see history in these walls. For the first time, the queen's eyes narrowed not with suspicion, but with interest. She moved past him toward the carvings on the wall. Her hand brushed over the symbols, and they lit up faintly. These tell the story of my people, she explained. Few outside have seen them. Even fewer understand them. Ravi watched closely, amazed that she was willing to share. The carvings showed great ships rising into the sky, figures standing tall with crowns upon their heads, and a river of stars that seemed to flow across the wall. He felt as if he had stepped not just into her room, but into her history. The queen turned back to him. You did not come here with purpose, yet you look as though you were meant to see this. Perhaps it is not an accident. Ravi shook his head quickly. It was a mistake. I promise. I followed the wrong path. Perhaps, the queen replied, her voice calm. But sometimes mistakes are doors. And doors lead to places where truth waits. Her words echoed in Ravi's mind. He wanted to believe it was just chance, yet he could not ignore the strange feeling rising in him that he was meant to be here, at this very moment. The queen studied him again, then asked a question that caught him off guard. Tell me of your world. Tell me of your people. Ravi blinked in surprise. My world? Earth. Yes. I know the reports. I know the leaders' speeches. But I want to hear it from you. From one who speaks without pride. Ravi hesitated. No one had ever asked him such a question. He was not a diplomat or a scholar. He was only the youngest member of the delegation. Yet the Queen's gaze held him steady, urging him to speak. So he did. Slowly, carefully, he described the blue oceans of Earth, the green forests, the crowded cities, and the many struggles humans faced. He spoke of families working hard to live, of children learning and dreaming, of people arguing yet also helping each other. He did not hide the flaws. He did not paint Earth as perfect. He spoke of it as it was beautiful and troubled, full of hope and mistakes. The Queen listened without interrupting. Her eyes softened, though her expression remained serious. When he finished, she said only one word, interesting. Ravi lowered his gaze, feeling both nervous and relieved. He had spoken openly, and yet she had not punished him. Instead, she had asked more of him than anyone ever had. The chamber felt different now. What had begun as a mistake was slowly becoming something else, a meeting not written in the plans of leaders, but one that might matter even more. Ravi did not know what the Queen truly thought of him, but he sensed that something important had begun. And deep inside, he realized with shock that he no longer wished to run away. Ravi stood very still, his hands at his sides, unsure what to do next. The Queen's words still echoed in his mind. She had not ordered guards, nor had she shown anger. Instead, she asked about his world and listened with care. It was unlike anything he expected from the most powerful figure of her people. Yet now the silence between them grew heavy. Ravi wondered if he had spoken too much, if perhaps his honesty had crossed some invisible line. He wanted to leave, but he also felt a pull to remain. Something about her presence made it hard to turn away. The Queen finally broke the silence. "You are afraid," she said through the translator, though her tone was not cruel. Ravi nodded slowly. "Yes. I did not mean to disturb you. If you allow, I will return to my group." The Queen took a step closer. Ravi felt the weight of her gaze. "If I wished to send you away, you would not still be here. You remain because I allow it. Do you understand?" Ravi lowered his head quickly. "Yes, I understand." But the Queen did not send him away. Instead, she began to move around the chamber, her long steps slow and graceful. Ravi's eyes followed her, unsure whether to stay silent or to speak. She touched one of the glowing crystals, and it changed color, filling the chamber with a softer light. "You humans are quick to fear," she said at last. "But fear hides something else. It hides wonder. I saw it in your eyes when you looked at this place. You did not only fear me. You admired what you saw." Ravi's throat tightened. It was true, though he had not meant to show it. "Yes," he admitted quietly. "I have never seen anything so strange and yet so beautiful. I thought alien life would be hard and cold. But this place, it feels alive." The Queen's eyes rested on him again, studying him carefully. Most humans hide such thoughts. They use careful words, pretending to respect what they do not understand. You speak simply. Why? Ravi thought for a moment. Because I don't know how else to speak. I am not trained like the others in my group. I only say what I feel. That answer seemed to interest her even more. She stopped walking and stood still, her eyes fixed on him. Perhaps that is why you are here. An accident, yes, but not without meaning. Sometimes a voice untrained carries more truth than a voice trained in falsehood. Ravi felt his heart beat faster. He had never imagined that his plain words could matter to someone like her. He had always been the quiet one in the delegation, following others, learning but rarely speaking. Yet now the Queen herself listened to him. Still, fear lingered inside him. He asked carefully, "Will this mistake cause trouble?" If my group learns I entered here, they may think I disrespected you. The queen's lips curved slightly, though not quite into a smile. Let them think what they wish. None of them would dare enter this place. Yet you did. And you stand here now, speaking with me. That alone makes you different. Ravi tried to breathe calmly, but his chest felt tight. He wondered if the queen was testing him, if she wanted to see whether he would tremble or run. Yet she did not raise her voice, nor summon guards. She seemed almost patient, as though she had all the time in the world to study him. The queen then asked a new question, one that shook him deeply. Tell me, human, when you look at me, what do you see? Ravi froze. He could not answer at once. He feared his words might offend her. Yet she waited, her eyes steady. At last, Ravi spoke slowly. I see someone powerful. But also someone, alone. The chamber grew quiet again. The queen's eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with something else thought. She had not expected such an answer. You see loneliness? She asked, her voice lower. Yes, Ravi whispered. I do not know why. But that is what I feel. The queen stood silent for a long time. Then she turned toward the wall carvings again, running her hand over them. Perhaps your eyes are sharper than I thought, she said. Ravi felt his chest grow heavy. He wondered if he had spoken out of turn. But something inside him told him that honesty was the only reason she had not dismissed him already. The queen faced him once more. You fear me, and yet you dare to speak such words. That is unusual for a human. Perhaps it is why I have not called my guards. Perhaps it is why I allow you to remain. Ravi lowered his gaze, unsure how to respond. His mind swirled with questions, yet he dared not ask them. Then the queen added softly, almost to herself, a mistake brought you here. But mistakes can reveal truths hidden by design. Ravi looked up again, meeting her eyes. He realized that in this moment, he was not only a visitor. He had become part of something unexpected, something that might change not just his own life, but perhaps the path of both species. And though fear still lived in him, curiosity was stronger now. He no longer wished only to escape. He wished to understand why fate had led him into the alien queen's chamber. Ravi stood silently in the middle of the chamber. The queen's words lingered in his mind. She had said that mistakes could reveal hidden truths. He could not understand why she treated him this way. He was no leader, no scholar, not even an important figure. Yet she spoke to him as though his presence carried meaning. The queen walked slowly to the side of the room where tall vases stood. She touched one, and it released a soft mist that filled the air with a cool scent, like fresh leaves after rain. Ravi breathed deeply, calming his nerves. He noticed how her movements were steady, graceful, and full of purpose. Every step she took carried weight, as if she was always aware of her role and power. You spoke of your world, the queen said at last. Of oceans and forests, of people who work and dream. Few who come here speak with such honesty. Most paint their world in perfect colors, hiding its flaws. You did not. Why? Ravi hesitated, then answered, because I thought you wanted truth. If I only spoke of the bright side, you would not know what my world truly is. The queen turned to face him. Her eyes shone with quiet thought. You are right. I did not want the polished words of a leader. I wanted a simple voice. And I received one. She moved closer, and Ravi felt her presence again, heavy yet not crushing. Do you know why your group is here? She asked. Yes, Ravi replied carefully. To speak of peace. To build understanding between our people. The queen's expression grew distant. Peace, she repeated. A word spoken many times, but rarely lived. Do you think peace is truly possible between us? Ravi's mind raced. He wanted to answer quickly, but he forced himself to think. Finally, he said, I don't know. But I think if we begin to listen, truly listen, then maybe it can grow. Without listening, peace is only a word. The queen studied him again, as if weighing his soul. Then she said, "Your words carry more sense than many speeches I have heard." Ravi felt a mix of pride and nervousness. He had spoken simply, from the heart, yet the queen seemed to value it. He wondered why she trusted him, when he was a stranger who entered her chamber by mistake. The queen walked to the wall carvings once more. She touched them, and the shapes shifted, showing new images: battles fought among stars, fleets of ships clashing, worlds burning. Ravi's chest grew tight as he watched. "This is also our history," the queen said softly. "Not only beauty, but war. My people have known victory and loss. We have ruled, but we have also suffered. Few humans understand this. They only see us as strong and dangerous." Ravi nodded slowly. "I think strength can hide pain. Maybe people fear what they don't try to understand." The queen looked at him with sharp eyes. "And do you try to understand?" Ravi swallowed and then nodded again. "Yes. I want to. Even if I fail, I want to try." For the first time, the queen's expression softened, almost gentle. She studied him not as an intruder, but as someone who might hold a small key to something greater. "You are not like the others," she said again. "That may be useful." Ravi's heart pounded. Useful? He wondered what she meant, but he dared not ask. He waited, letting her speak at her own pace. The queen returned to her pod but did not lie down. She stood tall beside it. "I will tell you something I have not spoken to your leaders. My people stand at a turning point. We are powerful, yes, but power does not stop decline. We need allies. We need voices that see more than fear." Her words struck Ravi deeply. This was no small confession. It was a truth hidden from the polished halls of diplomacy. He felt as though she had lifted a curtain and shown him something precious. "Why tell me?" Ravi asked quietly. "I am not important." The queen's eyes fixed on him. "Perhaps you are not important to your leaders. But you are important to me in this moment. You came here by accident, but I see no accident in the way you speak. You do not hide. You do not twist. That is rare." Ravi felt his chest tighten with emotion. He had never imagined someone so great would say such words to him. He was just an ordinary human, yet here he stood, carrying a secret shared by the queen herself. For a long moment, neither spoke. The chamber was silent except for the faint hum of the crystals. Ravi felt a strange connection forming, a bond not of power or duty, but of truth and honesty. The queen finally said, "Remember what you have seen here. Speak of it carefully. If you choose to tell your people, tell it with fairness. Do not let fear or pride twist it." Ravi nodded firmly. "I promise. I will be fair. I will remember." The queen's gaze lingered on him, as though searching for doubt. Then she gave a slight nod, the closest thing to approval he had seen. In that moment, Ravi understood something. What began as a mistake was no longer only a mistake. It had become a chance to see the hidden heart of a ruler, and perhaps a chance to shape the path of two worlds. And deep inside, he realized he did not want this connection to end. Ravi stood still, trying to take in everything the queen had said. Her voice was steady, yet her words carried a weight that made his chest feel heavy. She had spoken not as a ruler who wanted to impress, but as someone revealing something deeply personal. The queen moved toward the far end of the chamber, and Ravi followed with his eyes. She touched another section of the carved wall, and new shapes appeared. These were not scenes of battles or victories, but of gatherings, crowds of her people standing together in wide halls, their faces turned toward a single leader. In some carvings, the figures looked proud and united. In others, they looked tired and divided. "This," the queen said, "is what most will never see. My people stand between strength and weakness. We are feared in the stars, yet inside, we are not as whole as we appear. Fewer young rise to lead. Fewer voices carry hope. I rule, but I also carry silence. Her words cut deeper than Ravi expected. He had thought of her as a figure of unshakable power. Yet here she spoke of silence, of decline. Ravi asked carefully, "Do your people know this? Or is it hidden from them?" The queen's eyes grew distant. "They know parts of it, but not all. A ruler does not speak of weakness openly. If I showed fear, many would lose faith. So I carry it alone." Ravi felt a shock run through him. He realized what had struck him the moment he first saw her, that sense of loneliness. Now her words confirmed it. She carried the burden of an entire species, yet had no one to share it with. "You are alone in this," Ravi said softly. The queen turned her sharp gaze toward him, and for a moment he feared he had spoken too directly. But she did not scold him. She only nodded slightly. "Yes. Alone, though surrounded by many. That is the weight of a crown." The chamber grew quiet again. Ravi tried to imagine what it would feel like, to be looked at by millions with trust and fear, yet to stand without a single true companion. It was more than he could fully understand, yet he felt the truth of it. The queen studied him once more. "Tell me, Ravi. On your world, do your leaders carry such weight? Or do they share it?" Ravi thought carefully before answering. "Some try to share, but many hold it alone. And sometimes they break because of it." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, but there was no anger in them. "Then perhaps our worlds are not so different." Ravi stepped closer to the carvings, looking at the faces etched in the walls. They seemed almost alive, filled with stories of victories and struggles. He spoke quietly, not sure why he dared to say such words to her. "Maybe that is why you spoke to me. Because you wanted someone to see you not as a ruler, but as a person." The queen held his gaze. Her eyes, usually sharp and commanding, softened just a little. "Perhaps. Or perhaps I wanted to test if even one human could see beyond fear." Ravi's heart pounded. He felt that his presence in this room was no longer a mistake. He was being allowed to see what no one else from Earth had seen, the hidden heart of the queen. The queen turned back to the pod and placed her hand on its surface. "My people believe I am unshakable. That is the face I must show. But inside this chamber, away from the eyes of all, I sometimes wonder how long strength can last without understanding." Her voice carried no anger, no demand, only truth. Ravi listened, knowing these words were not meant for just anyone. She had chosen to share them with him, a human who had wandered by accident. "Why me?" Ravi asked finally. "Why not tell this to Arjun, or the other leaders of my group?" The queen's gaze grew firm again. "Because they would use it. They would twist it into advantage, or hide it as weakness. You do not carry that mask. You speak as you are. That is why I speak to you." Ravi felt a strange mix of pride and fear. He had never been chosen for anything important. Yet here he was, trusted with something that could shape the future of two species. The queen's voice lowered. "You asked before if peace is possible. The truth is, peace will not come from words spoken in grand halls. It will come from small truths, carried by those willing to speak them without pride. That is why I need someone like you." Ravi's breath caught. He wanted to say he was not worthy, that he was too small for such a task. But the queen's eyes held him steady, as if daring him to refuse. He finally whispered, "I will do what I can. I don't know if it will be enough, but I promise I will try." The queen gave the smallest nod, and for a moment, the heavy air of the chamber lifted. Ravi felt he had crossed a line, no longer just an intruder, but something more. As he stood there, he realized that what shocked him was not her appearance, nor her power, but the hidden truth of her heart. The alien queen, feared by so many, was not only strong but also burdened, lonely, and searching for someone who would listen without judgment. And now, by chance or by fate, that someone was him. Ravi felt the weight of the Queen's words press down on him. She had spoken openly about her people's struggles, about her loneliness, and about the need for someone who could see beyond fear. It was more than he had expected, more than he thought he could carry. The Queen stood tall before him, her presence commanding but not cruel. She watched him with eyes that seemed to search deep into his thoughts. Ravi shifted nervously but did not look away. "You now carry knowledge few of your kind will ever hold," the Queen said. "It is not a gift without cost. What you do with it will shape how your people see mine. Perhaps even how my people see yours." Ravi swallowed hard. He had never been given such a burden. He was no leader, no speaker of nations. He was just a young man who had followed the wrong path. Yet here he stood, chosen to carry a truth that could alter the future. "I don't know if I am strong enough for this," Ravi admitted. The Queen's gaze remained steady. "Strength is not only in power. Strength is also in honesty, in the will to speak when silence is easier. You have already shown that." Ravi took a deep breath. He thought of his group, of Arjun and the others. They were skilled in words, practiced in diplomacy. But they had not seen what he had seen. They had not heard the Queen's confession. If they had, they might use it for advantage, turning her honesty into a weapon in negotiations. Ravi knew that was what she feared. "What do you want from me?" Ravi asked. The Queen stepped closer, her shadow stretching across the polished floor. "I want you to be a bridge. Speak for us when others would speak only of fear. Tell your people that we are not only power, but also struggle. That we seek more than dominance, we seek survival and understanding. If you can carry that truth, then you will serve both your world and mine." Ravi's heart pounded. The task seemed impossible. Yet deep inside, he knew she was right. Leaders often spoke of peace, but peace built on half-truths would never last. If he could share what he had seen here, the art, the history, the loneliness of the Queen, then maybe humans would see more than a threat. Still, doubt filled his mind. "But who will believe me? I am no leader. I am just the youngest member of the group. My words carry little weight." The Queen's voice lowered, but its strength did not fade. "Sometimes it is the smallest voice that carries the deepest truth. Leaders will fight with words, but people listen to those who speak from the heart. You may think yourself small, but small things can shape great paths." Ravi's eyes met hers, and he felt the truth in her words. She was giving him a choice, not forcing, not demanding, but offering. He could walk away, pretend none of this had happened, and return to his group as though he had never entered her chamber. Or he could carry this new role, uncertain and heavy, but filled with meaning. His thoughts raced. He imagined going back to his group and saying nothing. The secret would stay safe, but the chance for true understanding would be lost. Then he imagined speaking honestly, telling the truth as he had seen it. The leaders might laugh, or they might grow suspicious. But perhaps some would listen. Perhaps a seed of change would be planted. "I am afraid," Ravi whispered. "Fear is natural," the Queen replied. "But courage is born when you act in spite of fear." The chamber fell silent. Ravi felt as though time itself had slowed, waiting for his answer. He looked around once more at the glowing crystals, the flowing fabrics, and the carvings of her people's history. He thought of her loneliness, hidden behind her crown. He thought of Earth, his own world, with its hopes and flaws. And then he knew his choice. "I will do it," Ravi said at last. His voice trembled, but his eyes were firm. "I will carry your truth. I will speak fairly, even if no one listens at first." The Queen's eyes softened. She gave a slow, approving nod. "Then you are braver than you believe. Remember, Ravi, truth is not always welcomed. But in time, it finds its place." Ravi felt both fear and pride rise within him. He had accepted a path that would not be easy. Yet it was a path worth walking. The Queen turned back to her pod. You may return to your group now. They will wonder where you have been. Do not reveal all at once. Choose your words carefully, but let them carry honesty. Ravi nodded, his chest tight but steady. He bowed his head slightly, not out of duty, but out of respect. Thank you, he said quietly. The Queen did not smile, but her voice carried a softness he had not heard before. Go, human. Your part in this story begins now. As Ravi stepped back toward the door, the chamber seemed different. It no longer felt like a forbidden place. It felt like the beginning of a journey, one he had never expected to take. And though his steps were uncertain, his heart carried a new strength. Ravi walked through the long passage back toward the meeting hall. His mind was full, his chest heavy with the promise he had just made to the Queen. The door to her chamber closed behind him with a soft hum, leaving him alone in the glowing corridors of the alien ship. Each step echoed in the silence, and with every step he thought of what awaited him. His group would ask questions. The leaders would demand answers. And he could not simply tell them he had gotten lost. His heart told him that much. When he reached the meeting hall, the voices of his group filled the air. They had been speaking with alien guides, discussing trade and laws. Arjun spotted him first and walked over quickly. Where have you been? Arjun asked. We looked for you. The guards said you went the wrong way. Ravi hesitated. The old fear rose in his chest, but he remembered the Queen's words. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the will to act despite it. I met someone important, Ravi said carefully. I was taken to a place I was not meant to see. And I learned something none of you have heard yet. Arjun frowned. What do you mean? Ravi looked around at the others. They were tired from long talks, their faces full of suspicion and curiosity. He lowered his voice. I met the Queen. The group froze. One of them laughed nervously. That is not possible, another said. The Queen does not meet with visitors. I am telling the truth, Ravi said firmly. I entered her chamber by mistake. She spoke to me. She showed me who she is, and what her people need. The doubt in their eyes cut him like a knife, but he did not stop. He described the art on her walls, the crystals that lit her chamber, the carvings of history. He told them of her words, her honesty, her struggle to carry both power and loneliness. By the time he finished, the room was quiet. No one laughed now. Arjun crossed his arms. And what do you expect us to do with this story? The leaders will never believe you. They do not have to believe me at once, Ravi said. But if we speak only of trade and strength, nothing will change. We will see each other as threats forever. If we speak of truth of the heart of their struggle, then maybe, just maybe, we can build more than a fragile peace. One of the older members shook his head. You are young, Ravi. You do not understand how dangerous this is. Sharing such words could be seen as weakness. Ravi's hands shook, but his voice stayed steady. Weakness is hiding behind half-truths. Strength is speaking what you have seen, even if it is hard to hear. The group exchanged uneasy glances. Some still doubted, but others looked thoughtful. At last Arjun sighed. Very well. When we return to Earth, you can speak. But do not be surprised if no one listens. Ravi accepted the challenge. He did not expect it to be easy. Days later, back on Earth, the Great Hall of Leaders was filled with noise. Reports from the mission were read aloud. Trade terms, borders, and security filled the speeches. Then Ravi was given a chance to speak. At first, the crowd paid him little attention. He was too young, too unknown. But when he began to describe the Queen's chamber, the silence grew. When he spoke of the carvings of their history, of her honesty, of her loneliness, the hall grew still. She is not only a ruler, Ravi said, his voice strong. She is a being who carries the weight of her people, just as our leaders carry the weight of ours. If we see only their power, we will live in fear. If we see their truth, we may learn respect. And from respect, peace can grow. The hall did not erupt in cheers. There was no sudden agreement. But there was silence, the kind that came when people were truly listening. Afterward, some dismissed his words as the talk of a dreamer. But others, the ones whose voices mattered most, began to think differently. They began to speak of understanding, not only control. Weeks passed, and Ravi returned to his normal life, but nothing felt normal anymore. Messages came from the alien queen, short and careful. She asked nothing more of him but thanked him for speaking. He realized she had trusted him with something precious, and he had not failed her. One evening, Ravi stood on a hill outside his town, looking up at the stars. He thought of the queen in her great ship, somewhere among those lights. He thought of her lonely strength, and of the bridge they had begun to build. He smiled faintly. He was no hero, no leader of armies. He was just a young man who had walked into the wrong room. But from that mistake, a new path had opened not only for him, but perhaps for two worlds. And though the future was uncertain, he felt no fear. For he now understood that courage was not about having all the answers. Courage was about carrying the truth forward, step by step, until others found the strength to walk beside you. Ravi closed his eyes and whispered, "I kept my promise." Far away, in the quiet of her chamber, the queen sat alone, her hand resting on the ancient carvings of her people. She did not smile, but her heart was lighter, for she knew that on another world, one human had carried her truth into the light.